Alright, here we go. This is going to be video number 1 of the basic TA playlist. We're going to start here at the blow off top of 2017. So we hit about 20,000 basically, blow off top, and we come down here and we find support at 12,872. Now once you find support, it will always be support. And once you break support, it will be resistance until you break above it again. So as you can see right here, we found 12,872 as support. We got a bounce from there. Support kind of acts like a trampoline. When price goes into it, you get a bounce. Most of the time, it's not guaranteed, but once you find support, you get a little bit of a bounce. And in the context of a downtrend, that bounce will normally get sold into. And in the context of an uptrend, that bounce will likely continue to keep trending to the upside. So we get a little bounce off support right here, and then it ultimately gets sold off around 17,000. And once it gets sold off, we come and retest this little green circle right here. We retest 12,872, and we get a tiny little bounce, but it fails, and then we ultimately break support for a giant move to the absolute bottom of 9,000. And we bounce off 9,000, come back up and retest the support, which is now resistance. Most of the time when you break support and you break down through it, at some point, not always, but at some point, most of the time, you come back up and retest it as resistance. Now 12,000, now that we're below it, 12,872 will always be resistance until we break above it. And then it will most likely be support. So we retest it as resistance and shit the bed all the way down here to 5,847, and we retest the support from back here in November of 2017. So support and resistance is always relevant through a long period of time. You know, if we, let's say 5,847 got tested as support 3 years ago, well, if we come down to it, it's most likely still going to be support. So we test here 5,847 as support, and it gets bought up really quick, and we get a big bounce. Then we come up to this trend line, get rejected, come up again, put in a little bit of a double top, we hit this downward trending resistance line, and then we hit that, we get rejected, and we come down here towards the support area. Now, even though 5,847 is the line of support, sometimes support can be a range. So you could do a little something like this, or like that. Sometimes support can be a bit of a range. So between 5,800 to 6,300, you know, it can be a range, because sometimes, you know, even though 5,847 is the support, sometimes it gets front ran, which means before we actually hit the support, kind of like right here, before we actually hit the support, it gets bought up before we can actually touch the support. That's called being front ran. So this 5,847 support line got front ran, and then we bounce back up, and we come back up here to 9,900 about, and then we get rejected again. Now at this point, this is when you can identify the downward trending resistance line. So we'll pretend that we're back here, and none of all that happened yet. So if this is all we're looking at right here, you know, when these two, when we put in this little double top right here, the most you can identify from that is a horizontal resistance line. So maybe like that. That's the most you can identify just from those two. But over time, once price action plays out a little bit, you can start identifying support and resistance a lot easier. You have to let consolidations and you have to let the structure of the market play out so that you can see what is actually going on. So back here you couldn't really tell what was going on, but now that we have this, now that we have 2 or 3 points of confirmation, you need 2 or 3 points of confirmation to identify a down or uptrending resistance line. So we got 1, 2, 3, and maybe 4 over here if you want to consider that. But so now that we have 3, now we can make this trend line, and now we can go off of that. So let's go ahead and hit play here. So now that we have our resistance line, we know support is down here, so we get support, and then we bounce up, and then we hit resistance, then we come down here, we test support a lot, test support, and get another little bounce up here, I think. Nope, kind of weak. Alright, so let's go ahead and stop that. Oop. Okay, so now another thing to note is the more you test support or resistance, the weaker it becomes. So we tested it once right here, twice right here, 3 times right here, and multiple times. We were basically laying on top of it right here. We couldn't even really get enough. We tried to get a bounce up to that resistance line, but even that didn't work out because, well, the market was relatively weak. We could even move that trend line a little bit. That makes a little more sense. But you see all the times we tested support, well, after so many times, it just becomes so weak. We tested it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. When you test support 5 times, it's even more likely each time that it's going to break. And that's what we saw here, was a breakout. Now, this is called a descending triangle. It is horizontal support and downwards trending resistance. 70% of the time it's going to break to the downside, but that's another video. So we break down, nasty breakout, we come all the way down here and we hit this big support line right here, which you notice back in September of 2017, go this a little bit, it was support and it was also resistance in June of 2017. And now it's acting as support. So support and resistance are relevant, years into the future. So we bounce off here, and then we come over here and we find some more resistance. See if that's relevant. No. So we find some resistance right here. Boom, rejected. Come down, we hit the support, and then boom, up again. Resistance, rejected, come down to support, and then we kind of lay on support, and we kind of bottom out right here, and then we have a breakout, and then boom, we hit resistance again right here, which was support over here. You see the support line that we were just talking about that was tested a lot? Well, it's now resistance because we broke below it. Now, it didn't take long to break above that, and now this resistance from the support over here is now support again. And then we come up here back to 12,872, the first one, this white line. We come all the way up here from this breakout down here, we come all the way up here and reject it again at it. So support and resistance is relevant for a very long time. That doesn't go away. And then even over here, we're talking 3 years later, we still get rejected at 12,872. And that's basically it. Let's see, is there anything else? Nope, that's about it. Alright, guys, thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.